Nice.
You can go ahead at your leisure.
Are we ready to start?
Yes, sir.
As I was about to say, I've been asked to chair the group this morning because Tom couldn't make it, and I'm happy to do that. I think it would be in order, since some of the new members of the board we do not know personally, I would ask them to introduce themselves very briefly. And I will start that off by saying that I'm David Hamilton. I live in the village of Glendale in the same house for 65 years, and I've been on the board for many number of those years. So in order to have the next board member, an old board member, introduce herself. Nancy, are you there? Could you say a few words to these gathered folks?
Okay, David, if you know me, I never can say a few words, but I'll try. My name is Nancy Floyd. I have lived in the village now for, I don't know, almost 50 years. I've been on this board more years than I can remember, and I'm a former council member, former vice mayor. And if you've been in the village in our GHP, you'll see my picture hanging there on one of those big boards as one of the women of Glendale who made a difference. I'm trying yet to find out what that difference is, but welcome to you new members.
It's all, for the record, Nancy, it's all good.
Good, okay. Okay.
Thank you, Nancy. Now, would one of the new members say a few words to us? John, would you like to be next?
Could be me. Scott, maybe you can say, introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. So I'm Scott Thurman. I live over here at 1081 Morse Avenue. This is my second Glendale home. In 2004, I built over on St. Edmund's Place. And at the time, it was Mayor Todd and Wally running the village really nice. And they convinced us this was a great place to move from, or to, from the west side of town. So the reason this is my second home in the village is because I moved to Wyoming for a few years to utilize the Wyoming high school system for my daughter. And she's currently at UC, and we're back where we belong in Glendale. So I'm happy to participate and serve the village.
Welcome back. Gary?
Yeah, hi, I'm Gary Terrell. My wife and I have lived in Glendale for a little over 11 years. We live on 180 East Fountain, and look forward to working with everybody on this.
The prerogative being mayor to request that David, Mr. Hamilton, serve as chair of the meeting today, acting chair. I am assuming there is no objection from any of the membership to Mr. Hamilton serving in that capacity.
Not for me.
No.
Okay, there being no objection, for the benefit of Ms. Terrell, who is taking the minutes here, you can record that it was proposed that Mr. Hamilton chair the meeting in the absence of Mr. Bridenstine, and that there was no objection. So with that, Mr. Hamilton, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. Normally, if we have any outsiders, you ask them to be sworn in, but the new members of the board have been instructed and so forth. So we're here today to review the application for the swimming pool at 725 Greenville. And if there's any additional information that the board members would like, we'd be happy to hear from any questions that you may have. I hope that everyone the board members are familiar with the location of the property and the proposed swimming pool. So are there any discussions of anybody on the board or any visitors here that would like to ask any questions of the appellants?
Mr. Chair, this is Scott. Will there be any presentation by staff or by the applicant?
Would you like to let the applicant do a brief presentation?
I'd like for him to, but you.
Sure, we can do that. Sure, I'm not sure exactly what you folks have in your hand. I think that the application I'm looking, I just printed it out here. It was submitted back February 18th, 2020. There's a written narrative and some attachments to that. I can go through those. So basically, is there any way I can share my screen with you folks? I have a PDF of this information loaded, so I'm not sure if.
They should each have the application in front of the packet was mailed to them.
We have that
So
information.
if you want to talk through it, that might be.
Okay. Yep, we can do that. So basically, just a little information about the homes. Yeah, 725 Greenville Avenue. We bought it last October, moved in. Love it. Property, as you all know, zoned residential. I think it's residential A, and it's like a 3/4 of an acre, so it's a large property. Meets all the setbacks under that current zoning, and what we discovered when we bought this property and talking to the former owner, that there was a sewer line in the rear yard. One thing, because of the size of this property and the type of home we talked about, is like putting a pool in. So that was one thing the former owner pointed out. And all really we were able to locate was a manhole cover, basically in the backyard, kind of right straight out from where I'm sitting here. So I actually went and looked in through some deeds and whatnot, and I found references to this sewer line that ran through the property. And I actually submitted that with the application. Turns out that information was for a sanitary sewer line that is on the side property line between us and my neighbor to the south, the Miss Kissing. But there's still, and so this manhole was actually something else. So a fellow, Tom from the village, came out yesterday or 2 days ago and looked at this manhole cover, and there's actually a storm sewer that runs. The neighbors, the Viles, I see you there, that runs, I think, on both sides of their house, and then it wraps around and then converges in my backyard. So that was one of the things that the former Miss Boggs had pointed out, that, hey, you can't do anything here because of this. And then, so that's essentially the main reason why we're asking for this variance to put the pool over on the other side, because you can't really put it back there. And there were some reasons I listed there in the application, because of the storm sewer, obviously. And then the way this house is built, I don't know if any of you folks have been here, but the way the owner built this house, it's really oriented toward the side yard, facing the neighbors to the north, and faces into their rear yard. Our house is a little further back than theirs. So it's kind of ideal, actually. And there's a detached accessory building back in the corner. So that pool would be located between our rear patio and the that building. I think that shows up there on the little site plan I put together. And on that plan, it shows all the dimensions, the setbacks and whatnot from the side property lines, from the house, from the existing accessory building back in the corner. And the one thing I did want to point out was I looked at the zoning code, and I think, if I understand correctly, pools are considered like accessory buildings, accessory uses. So they can be up to within 5 feet of the property line. Well, obviously we didn't want to do that, but we want to put it here in the side. So actually by putting it there in the side yard, it gives a much larger setback than that 5 feet that you could go. So it's about 34 feet from the north property line, 45 feet from the back property line. So it's kind of really far up. And then, but anyway, that's the best location for it, we thought.
Thank you for the information.
Sure.
Do you have any questions, Gary?
Yeah, this is Nancy Floyd. I'd like to ask John, if I may call you John.
Sure.
Are you talking, will the proposed pool be, know there are some cement blocks that lead out to that little outhouse, that little house back there. Will the pool be between there and where she has like, where Donna and Bob had like a fountain?
Exactly.
That's where it will be. Okay, I'm
yeah.
trying to picture it in my mind because I must have been in that house or on that property at least 1,000 times. They were, and Donna still is my best friend.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly where it is.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a series, I didn't mention that, but it's in the application. Yeah, she built a series of walking paths and trails all around the property. So yeah, that would be,
Exactly.
yeah, by putting the pool there, you could actually keep that path and still walk to the front
Okay.
door of that building.
Hey, John, Gary Terrell, just a question for you. Was there ever an investigation or an attempt to try to put the pool in the back of the house, or was it just by default that you chose this side property?
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, she had pointed out that there was this sewer, but like I said, there was just a manhole, so we didn't really know where the lines were coming into that manhole. So I just thought it would be a good idea to avoid it entirely. And then, like I said, ideal. And then now that with this new information that we just got 2 days ago, that there's actually 2 lines going there.
If I may, Jason, if you could enable screen sharing. John, I have this screenshot that you sent from, it's a little fuzzy, but I have the screenshot of the sewer lines that you sent from the county. And I'd like to display that on my screen so everyone can see. Let me see here.
You should be able to now.
There we go. So I don't know if folks can see my mouse pointer or not, but
Oh, yes.
there's 725. So there's the property in question. Here is approximately the proposed pool. Here's the location of that manhole. And then here's the, I guess, approximate or
Right. That's all approximate.
of those lines.
There you are, but the lines are crossing through it.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, of course.
I think the application also referred to the fencing that you proposed to replace. So
Right.
Answer the one problem.
Yeah.
Satisfied both of those.
Right. This entire property is enclosed by,
Right.
it's got 2 types of fences, but on the north property line, that fence is in pretty bad shape. Plus, it being right there, we wanted to change that to a decorative fence, metal fence like the one in the front.
Are there any other questions to be asked of the applicant? Or should we
Excuse me.
proceed with the,
I'd like to actually understand the veils. Like, I mean, you're on this call for a reason. I'd like to maybe hear from you about what your thoughts are and kind of get your opinion on what's going on.
Well, we just kind of were interested in the location of the pool, where that would be, and the fencing. What type of fencing they would, be putting up. Then would you take the wood fence down that's currently there?
Yeah, the one between our properties in the back, no, that will remain. That when we moved in, we've got 2 dogs and that fence was laying on the ground, a huge part of it. So
Okay.
yeah, we had some guys repair that immediately so we could let the dogs out. But that, at least for the time being, that'll stay. But the fence between us and the neighbors to the north, that fence is in really bad shape and it needs to go.
Yeah, we were just curious. We originally, Donna talked to us years ago and asked if we could give her some, a thin strip of our backyard to allow her to build that extra garage or whatever you call it. So we did, and that actually turned, not because of Donna messing up, but turned out to be kind of a debacle where we had to get like our mortgage redone because our property was a huge mess. So, that was a problem. I can tell you that sewer line if you have nothing better, you can pull off the manhole cover and stick your head down and see where it goes, because I'll make this real quick, but a few years ago, the city lined the sewer with, to make it, I don't know, more stable, and they actually cut off our line to the sewer, from our house, so we could have backed up. It was a long story and everything. Anyway, cut off our sewer line by mistake. So anyway, but yeah, we were just.
Good to know.
Just for the record, do I understand you do not object to the proposed application to build the pool where it's proposed?
I
No.
don't know.
Okay.
Is there any further discussions, or should I ask for a motion?
I have a little discussion, Chair. This is Scott. So I asked to pull the village's sewer records for this property, and I sent that plat to David this morning, to David Lumsden this morning. Is that something we can bring up real quick
Is it the
on
one
the
with
screen?
the one with your
the-
handwriting?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
It's very, it's simplified.
Sure. Let me start at the beginning of your comment, if I may. This was what we had pulled. All of the board members should have had this. I don't have it
Right.
digitally in front of me. If you look closely at this, and then this is 725 right here, that appears to be the manhole that was on the map that I previously had up on my screen. That was it's labeled a storm sewer map. So whether it's sanitary or storm, it's hard to say, but that does coincide with the record that John had pulled and provided. Now, Scott, let me pull up. Let me see here. Give me 1 second when I switch over. Okay. So this is, if you want to take it away, this is what you sent to me this morning.
That is the second one. The first one should have been the sewer record with my handwritten in red, the street names.
Oh, yes. Give me 1 second here. Okay.
There we go.
All right, let me zoom out here.
And then if you can maybe, yep, scale it down. There we go. So this map indicates that there's two storm sewer systems. If you look up on Woodbine Avenue by where Mr. Hamilton lives, those are street grates for storm sewer water that show the location and the direction they're going. Both of these appear to be stormwater to me. And they're for the benefit of the village, of course, because it handles all the uphill stormwater that has to traverse downstream and then eventually cross the railroad tracks at culvert pipes. To me, the location of this pool is the best location in the interest of the village because of the encumbrance of these storm sewers. And I don't think it's prudent for us to get too close to the storm sewer lines when the applicant's willing to work with the given situation. So if I can kind of start the internal board discussion, I'm in favor of the plan as it's proposed for a couple of reasons. The first one being the storm sewer location and the ambiguity of that location. This gets us away from any future problems with that. I also think the plan has several other attributes or merits, and I agree with the applicant that bringing the pool away from the rear yard, away from these sewers, helps preserve a tree line. It's a little thin, but it is a tree line. And we're a treed community, which we just celebrated our designation last council meeting. So preserving those trees, I think, has merit. The fact that there could be a fountain or a gazebo or a pergola or some landscape feature in this same side yard convinces me that the proposed in-ground pool is really a landscape feature to the nth degree that can be used to swim in, of course. So I just want to go on record that I propose, or I support the applicant's application. And I think every one of us on the board here should probably give reasons for or against. So that's where I stand. I wanted to get that on the table.
Thank you very much. That's very informative to see where those sewer lines are. And certainly wouldn't want to put a swimming pool on top of a sewer line.
Right.
There any other further discussions?
I
Gary,
had
you
a
have
question. I had a question. So I know that in the packet, it talked about notifying other neighbors to see if they had any concerns. I don't know, Wally or David, have you heard from any of the neighbors other than the Vales that are here?
Wally, if I may, we had back prior to us closing the office to walk-in visitors, Kathy Kissing had stopped into the office to review the plans. This was back when the meeting was originally scheduled for the 23rd of March. She had reviewed the plans, looked at them, and if I remember correctly, her exact words were, "Oh, it's not on my side of the property. It doesn't bother me." Aside from her, no. We've had no other comment or question or anything like that regarding this project.
And David, are we correct in stating that we've sent notices to those adjoining properties within a 200-foot radius plus?
Yes, adjoining properties received the original notice of the 23rd, and then they also received the same notice that the Vales received with instructions on how to join this meeting if they chose.
Good.
Okay.
You know, again, we're only here because for a good number of years, the sewer line back up and we would get water in our basement. So the village finally came in a couple years ago and gave us some new features, so we don't get water in our basement anymore. But that would be our only concern.
Okay.
Is there any way we can get the little picture of where the pool's going to be on the property?
I can pull that up on my screen if everyone's willing to wait for me to pull it up. So it's a little, let's see. It's perhaps not the clearest, but let me zoom out here a little bit. So here's Greenville Avenue, railroad tracks, obviously. So here would be the garage, and then here's the proposed location of the pool.
I see.
So where is it?
Yeah. It's right there.
I'm sorry, I'm moving it, I know. I'm just trying to get it.
Right. So it's really in front of, kind of in front of that.
Yeah, that's what I figured it would be. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion.
I think you've cut out there, Scott.
Didn't hear you.
Scott,
Did
we
I
can't hear you.
understand, Scott, that you're prepared to make a motion?
Yes, sir. Unless there's any further discussion.
I guess I just want to make a point about something. If those sewer lines, whatever they are, were not there, clearly that would change the dynamic of this conversation, right? I mean, the whole reason why you want that on the side of your yard, John, is because you're not able to put it in the backyard. Although based on the photographs and based on the way your house is situated, it's advantageous for you to have the pool where you want to put it because that's where your side yard patio is. But if those sewer lines weren't there, this would be a very different conversation, I think. Is that correct to everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, to me, if the question is to me, it could go either way because the house actually has, that is a better spot. You're right. You know, because there's that building and, you know, it just seems to fit perfectly. Plus, you know, like I said, there's all these larger trees around the perimeter, especially there's a nice grove of evergreen trees back there that are in the rear yard. We definitely wouldn't want to take those out. So yeah, it's just a number of things.
Yep.
Do I hear there are no further discussions? Could we have a motion, please?
I'll propose and make a motion to accept the applicant's submittal as submitted with no changes or conditions.
I think I'd like to hear you say you are moving to support the applicant's request for a variance.
Okay. So move.
Is there a second to the motion?
Agreed.
I second that motion.
Thank you, Nancy. We'll have a yes or no. And should we start, Nancy?
You have a yes from me.
Yes. Gary?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
And I voted yes. So the motion is passed. And you may build a swimming pool and enjoy it.
I will. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Mr. Lumsden, what is the next step for the
Dig
applicant?
out my swimming suit.
John, the next step for you is, because a swimming pool is also a conditional use, you're going through every different little nook and cranny of our zoning code. You will be on the agenda for the Planning Commission meeting. Wally, please interrupt me if I'm incorrect, on the 4th of
Correct.
May. We will be holding it in a similar style, the Zoom meeting. We have this and then another pool application. I'm thinking we'll get those done first. Planning Commission will issue a recommendation to council.
Okay.
And then at the council meeting, the council will actually pass legislation approving the conditional use, or depending on how that goes, address legislation approving or denying the conditional use. Additionally, Planning Commission will review your proposed fence application. And that'll all be bundled in with the conditional use discussion. So that should be a pretty straightforward.
Oh, I have a question. When is the council meeting after the?
It's after the Planning Commission meeting. Planning Commission is held at 5:30. Council is at 7.
Oh, same day. Gotcha.
Same night. Yep.
Oh, good.
Yep. It'll be a separate Zoom call, but you'll get an email from me with all that information.
Great. All right. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn?
I move that we be adjourned.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you
Good
very
meeting
much.
everyone.
New members, welcome to the board. Good work.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good day.